away from me. It's time to start taking it back.
From the beginning of Yellow Jackets, there have been inklings that there is something going on with Shauna. Is becoming the Antler Queen something that came out of nowhere? I want to take a closer look at her throughout the seasons and see if her deterioration throughout the show made sense for her to become the Antler Queen that we've been wondering about since 2021. The first episode alone tells the audience a lot about Shauna, especially when it comes to her jealousy regarding her best friend Jackie. Not only was there major jealousy, but Shauna simply did not know how to be her own person. She always let herself be in Jackie's shadow, even though she clearly held a lot of resentment for it. You don't just end up sleeping with your best friend's boyfriend out of nowhere. And there was a clear intention behind it when it came to getting back at Jackie for Shauna's own personal failure to let herself live in her own light. I'm going to take a second and talk about adult Shauna, though. There is an interesting line from Adam in episode 7 of season 1.
Every single cell in your body wants to blow things up and see what happens. That's who you are.
And I truly think that this is a sentiment that resonates throughout Shauna from even before we knew her. Like I said before, you don't just accidentally sleep with your best friend's boyfriend. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that Shauna deserved all the trauma that she went through or anything like that. All I'm saying is that she does have some self-destructing tendencies. But what I really do want to highlight about Shauna in the first season specifically is that while she has clearly done some bad things, she is not inherently a bad person. In the beginning, of course, because with the way we know her as she is as an adult, and by season 3, I do think she is a pretty bad person, and she's gotta go. Something very simple to bring up that speaks to her sincerity is in episode 2, when Van is stuck in the plane. Shauna sees that she is struggling and she tries to help her. But when Jackie sees that it's too much of a struggle, she takes Shauna out of the plane and pretty much just leaves Van to die. Shauna is distraught by the action and believes that Van is dead because she couldn't help her. She's angry at Jackie, but is relieved when she finds out that Van is alive after all. Now, for me personally, this is something very basic that speaks to most people's humanity. I can't even completely fault Jackie in this case because she was trying to save her best friend. But I'm really using this as an example that Shauna always had humanity in her from the start, and her character was something that clearly deteriorated over time given the circumstances and the trauma that she will be going through in the wilderness. There are really a lot of little moments throughout season 1 that speaks to Shauna's kindness. A couple of these examples would be giving Javi the paper to journal with, rushing to help Mari when she's yelling about bugs being on her, and sleeping with Ty upstairs when nobody else was willing to. I'm not saying these actions make her an angel by any means, but it does show that there is a decent person in there. Another better example of this would be the firearm contest that was held to see who would go hunting to find food for the group. Shauna doesn't even show up for it, and she says,
I don't really think I'm meant to handle firearms.
which, given what we've seen in season 3, is a far cry of how we know her. But something that is interesting is that Shauna is the first person, besides Misty, to volunteer to bleed out and carve the food for the rest of the team. It took me a second, and I was wondering why she did that. I don't know if she wanted to feel useful to the group in some way, but when she puts the knife to the deer's neck and does the deed, she's very calm, and there's some sort of, I don't know, catharsis that seems to flow through her as the deer bleeds out, which is an interesting idea to bring to her character so early on. And now that we're on the topic of blood, during episode 5, Shauna is faking her period because she is pregnant at this point, which is her worst nightmare, quite literally, for a variety of different reasons, namely who the baby's father is and the prospect of having a baby in the wilderness where
The OBGYN on call is Misty fucking quickly.
Moving forward in episode 5, the Yellow Jackets decide to hold a seance, which is an absolutely horrible idea, but this is, from what I'm aware, the first mention of quote-unquote it. When Lottie gets possessed by something, she says to Shauna,
It's in you already.
which could be a reference to the baby, since Lottie takes an unhealthy interest in him later on in the second season, or it could be a reference to Shauna's hidden nature. If I'm being honest, I'm more inclined to believe it's about the baby. But after the seance debacle, everybody is too scared to sleep upstairs. But Ty wants to prove to everyone that there is nothing to be afraid of. No one else is willing to keep her company upstairs except for Shauna, and they start to bond because of this. Ty has already had inklings about Shauna's baby, but now Shauna has someone to express her fears with. Like, the thought of having a baby out in the wilderness and then to also have to explain that it's the love child of Jackie's boyfriend has got to be mortifying on a variety of different levels, which causes Shauna to consider a DIY abortion. That experience alone is traumatic enough, but added on top of the fact that she just survived a plane crash, is trying to survive out in the wilderness, and doing this abortion alone, until Ty comes, of course, is just a level of anxiety I really cannot begin to fathom. By the end of it, she is unable to go through with it, but the damage is already done on her mental health. Now, when it comes to the doom coming, and everyone is on shrooms, and a little bit cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs at this point, it's Shauna that has the knife to Travis's neck. Now, to be fair to her, she was high as hell, and Travis looked like a deer to her, but still, we can take note of the fact that out of everyone in the group, Shauna is the lead aggressor in these matters. At this point in the story, I don't think there's anything for me to say that Shauna is meant to be the Antler Queen or anything like that, and if I'm being completely honest, I don't even think the writers knew who they wanted to be the Antler Queen at this point. And if I'm being completely honest, I still believe it shouldn't have been any one person and it should have been an entity of collective consciousness, but I'm writing this video to make sense of this decision for myself. But for right now, I think it's time to get on to subscribing to the channel because I would really appreciate that. Okay, but in all seriousness, I really do think we should start talking about... To talk about Shauna is to talk about Jackie, because they are essentially two peas in a pretty fucked up pod. One scene that speaks a lot to Shauna's character is when Ty's explaining the plan to freeze out one of their teammates. When asked what she thinks of the plan, Shauna says,
Jackie's not gonna like it.
it's never really been about what Shauna thought, because that never really mattered. I want to talk more about the follower-leader dynamic that these two have. For example, in episode 2, when Shauna goes against Jackie in the vote on whether to stay at the plane or to go to the lake, Jackie seems not only surprised, but also betrayed. When they are at the lake, Jackie tries to act as if she's replaced Shauna by being all buddy-buddy with Maury. It's not until they reach the cabin and Shauna explains herself and states that she's not sure what's right or wrong or what to do about anything in the wilderness. So in the case of the vote, she just did what she felt was right. They make up, but it's an interesting dynamic in their relationship that one vote can cause this much of a rift. But also, friends do fight, and I can't imagine this is too uncommon for them, minus the circumstance, of course. What's interesting is that the roles are reversed in the wilderness. I mean that Jackie isn't that much of a leader out in the wilderness. In fact, she is really not much of a help at all. So much so that everybody pretty much notices. And when it starts bothering other people, Shauna does her best to help her friend out. But Jackie is pretty adamant that she is not cut out for being in the wild. But she does try to lift up everybody's spirits by holding a seance, which once again was an absolutely horrible idea, and I don't know why they agreed to it. But after that travesty ends, Shauna wants to go upstairs to sleep with Ty, but Jackie pretty much tells her no, and Shauna listens, because she is still used to listening and not doing. Like I said before, there is a little bit of a shift here, because in the middle of the night, Shauna decides to listen to what she wants to do and goes up to Ty. Throughout most of the first season, Jackie can sense that Shauna is hiding something from her, and eventually Jackie finds out the truth about Shauna and Jeff by invading her privacy and reading her diary, which leads to the end result of Jackie storming out of the cabin. And this whole argument really lets out a lot of grievances, especially from Shauna's side, and I'm not going to sit here and say that Jackie was right and she did everything with the best intentions for Shauna, but she did kind of make a point when she said,
Did I force you to live in my shadow, Shauna?
at the end of it all, this was the end for Jackie, and she is someone that will haunt Shauna for the rest of her life. And haunt her she did. In the first couple of episodes of the second season, Shauna is speaking to Jackie and talking to her about all of the things that she never actually got to talk about her with. But when Jackie starts pressing her a little bit too hard for information, Shauna pushes back, literally, and Jackie's ear comes off, which brings the audience to the first instance of cannibalism, when Shauna takes a bite off at the end of the episode. Or I think she actually eats the whole thing, but I don't know. What I find really interesting about the Jackie-Shauna conversations in the shed is that it really gives the audience an inside look into what Shauna is really thinking about herself. Sure, Jackie is the one speaking, but she's not actually alive to have any of these conversations. Honestly, it's a bit sad at first, because when Shauna is braiding Jackie's hair, you could see the genuine care and fun she had with her. But as the conversation goes on, then the insecurity starts to seep through, and again, the idea that Shauna wants human flesh is brought up. It's interesting because it seems like Jackie was offering herself up, but realistically, Shauna was the only one that could hold the knife. At this point in time, Shauna is very closed off to help in any way. When Ty asks her if she's doing alright, Shauna just brushes it off and she says she's fine, which is obviously a lie. And when Ty finds out what Shauna has been doing with Jackie in the shed, she makes the suggestion to get rid of Jackie's body. And while Shauna is visibly distraught, she doesn't say anything at this point, possibly because she's too overwhelmed with emotion to not say anything that will make her situation worse. The only time her anger rises throughout this conversation is when her baby is brought up. And when Ty suggests they cremate her, Shauna is once again distressed and is asking for them not to go through with it because she's not ready to let go. Later on, her anger rises again when the Yellow Jackets are preparing for the cremation and they are debating whether to take Jackie's jacket. She gets so upset that she gets physical with Mari. To be fair to Shauna, though, the comment that Mari made was pretty out of line in my opinion, but it's interesting to see Shauna expressing her anger more at this point, and I don't even think Shauna is wrong to be angry. Between losing her best friend and carrying a baby out in the wilderness, there are a lot of emotions inside of her that are taking their place. After the failed cremation that leaves Jackie's body for the Yellow Jackets to eat, Shauna is the one to say that Jackie would want them to. Now, Shauna's shown a little bit of cannibalistic tendencies before, like I said, the ear and Jackie's arm, but the other Yellow Jackets are brought into it now and they feast, for this will essentially save them during the winter. I don't really know if Jackie would want them to eat her though, and the main reason I say this is that if there was anyone on the team, besides Coach Ben, that was against their primal tendencies taking over, it would have been Jackie. So I really think this is a Shauna thing through and through. But in the next episode, Shauna is relaying her worries to Lottie. Having come out of the stupor they were in last night with their feast, Shauna is terrified because she feels like there's something inside of her changing, and to let that take over would be too much to handle. And worse, what if she hurts the baby in the process too? Speaking of Lottie and the baby though, it seems that Lottie has taken an off-putting, I don't really know what else to call it, so I guess I'll say affinity or kinship to Shauna's baby, to which Shauna is rightfully concerned about. Shauna has never truly believed in the ways of the wilderness, and Lottie whispering to her baby and how he is their child is definitely disturbing. What's even more traumatizing for Shauna is going into labor in the middle of the woods, in the middle of a blizzard. But once they make it back to the cabin, now she has to deliver. In my opinion, this is one of the harder episodes to watch, with Shauna going through labor, to everyone in the room just trying their absolute best, to Shauna's dream of the Yellow Jackets eating the baby, to the reveal that Shauna had a stillbirth. It's all just extremely devastating and really one of the harder episodes to watch. The death of her child was the real turning point for Shauna. After she makes her own burial site for him, she states,
It's you and me against the whole world.
she goes back to the shed to try and talk to Jackie, but there is just the cold reminder that she isn't there anymore.
Jackie, I really need you right now.
And now Shauna is completely alone. Going back to the cabin, Shauna hears one of her teammates humming a song similar to the one she heard in her nightmare when everyone ate the baby. This causes her to lose it, and she hits Misty. She's absolutely ready to keep going, but the other Yellow Jackets hold her back. That is, until Lottie decides to take one for the team and allow Shauna to let all of her rage and frustration out. Shauna keeps throwing punch after punch after punch, and the only thing everyone else does is watch. Lottie is left lying on the floor, absolutely beaten down, and Shauna is nowhere near sorry or regretful. And when Lottie starts coughing up blood, Shauna kind of just rolls her eyes and leaves the cabin to go ice her hands. And Shauna's darkness can be seen once again, because the look she throws back at the cabin is absolutely brutal. I'm not saying that Shauna is completely a lost cause at this point, but something to note during the card pulling and the hunt scene is that Shauna was going to be the one to commit the act to take out Natalie. Now, I don't really know why she was the one to do this. I don't know if it's because she was the butcher, but it's not something that she was comfortable with, and she didn't even want to look at Nat when she was going to do it, which makes sense because it's not like she's a murderer or anything at this point. Yeah, sure, there's a change that is happening within her, but it's not like it's taken over yet. Another piece of information to note is that when Javi is drowning in the lake, Shauna was one of the people to really stop the others from trying to help Javi. That being said, Shauna is still the butcher for the Yellow Jackets, and she is the one to carve up Javi. She tells the other Yellow Jackets to leave because she believes they shouldn't have to witness it. Shauna is skilled enough at this point to be able to carve him up blindfolded because she can't bear to look at his face. And I really can't imagine what that does to a person, to have to be the one to slice up someone you know and care about. What that does to someone's mental states, especially one that is already currently deteriorating as we speak, can't be good, and that is absolutely an understatement. With even more trauma added to the list, the Yellow Jackets now designate a new leader. Well, technically, Lottie said the wilderness already chose, and the chosen one is Natalie, much to Shauna's surprise, and you can see it on her face when the camera cuts to her. When everyone is showing their respect to Natalie in regards to the decision, Shauna does a small bow. But if you really look at it, out of everyone, hers is definitely the most impersonal action taken. Frustration comes out in her notebook where she writes, "How could it have not been me?" And I used to think it was Jackie that made me feel invisible, but... Now we enter the third season, and Shauna's rage is clear to see from the beginning. The start of episode 1 is a chase scene where Mari looks like she's being hunted, but really they're just playing a game to see who's going to be the servants, I guess, for the day. Shauna's team ends up losing, and she's annoyed by it. But it doesn't end with mild annoyance. Shauna is very open about her disdain for Mari, making comments like,
Can't believe we didn't eat that bitch first.
when talking to Melissa, who we'll get onto later. And really, she's taking a lot of her frustrations out on Mari. She's bitching her food and physically fights her literally right after. And make no mistake, Mari is being a nuisance for sure, and given that comment from season 2 that she made towards Shauna in regards to Jackie, I can understand Shauna's annoyance. But the severity to which Shauna reacts is definitely concerning. Mari is not the only person that Shauna is showing anger towards. There's clear disdain for Natalie as the leader. And when Akila makes her a crown for the memorial, she shoves it off her head and to the ground, and enjoys the fact that Melissa steps on it to destroy it. She doesn't show up for Van's story time, and instead is writing all of her anger and frustrations in her notebook. When she looks at the camera like this, clearly something is very off about her. I would just like to say that Shauna doesn't necessarily owe anybody anything, but once again, it's the severity in the way that she reacts, which is the actual problem. At the end of episode 1, when they are at the memorial, Shauna is just irritated, and once Lottie mentions her baby, she just straight up walks away, because the baby belonged to no one but Shauna, and here everyone else is acting like it was their own, which is why she also moves the baby in the next episode, and remembers what she said when she buried him the first time.
It's you and me against the whole world.
When Melissa follows her out to the burial site, Shauna is quick to be on the attack, but then something unexpected happens and Melissa kisses her, and something unexpected happens again. Shauna kisses back. I was a little bit confused with this development at first, but after thinking about it, I believe that Melissa was the first person to really acknowledge Shauna's trauma to her face and respect her for her resilience through it all. Not only that, but she doesn't shy away from Shauna's dark side either. It's not a healthy relationship, and that's clearly seen in the next episode, where the stance Shauna holds is more of, I'll let you be here, and you better not do anything that I deem unworthy. I don't think I mentioned this before, but after Shauna and Mari fought, Mari ran away and fell into a pit. The Yellow Jackets want to go and look for her, but Shauna couldn't really care less if she tried. I'm bringing this up mainly to talk about how Shauna's humanity is falling away. To be mad is one thing, but to simply not care if one of your teammates is dead is another entirely. Even when Mari makes her way back to the group, it's not as if Shauna cared that she was okay, she just wanted information on where Coach Ben is. But when they are on the search for him, Shauna does show pretty great leadership capability by being supportive and patient. Arguably, I could say that she's more so just being manipulative. She knows that to get what she wants, she can't just blow up all the time. And this was not the situation to get mad, since only one person knew where to go. Once they make it to the caves, Akila, Van, and Shauna all have hallucinations. Shauna's revolve around her baby, and it's all really just sorrowful. She's stuck in the middle of a lake, and no matter how hard she tries, she just can't seem to go anywhere. Stuck, with no way out. There is another hallucination with more of the Yellow Jackets, including Jackie. But if I'm being honest, I couldn't even come up with a way to make sense of it. So if you would like to say your theories in the comments, then go for it, because I'm lost on this one. Maybe there's a really obvious interpretation and I'm trying to think too hard about it when I don't have to. Throughout all of this hallucination business, they do find Coach Ben, and Shauna is ready to just end him right there. No questioning, no nothing. There is no direct evidence that he was the one who burned down the cabin, but Shauna already made up her mind and she wants blood. The Yellow Jackets do end up having a trial, and throughout the entire thing, Shauna is pretty much enjoying whenever it seems like Coach Ben looks guilty. But then Misty puts Shauna in the hot seat, and she starts saying what's on a lot of the audience's mind when it comes to Shauna's mental state. She even goes as far as to blame Shauna for possibly burning down the cabin, so she could be appreciated by everyone. When Ty has her redirect, she really lays into why she holds so much anger for Coach, and this idea of us and them is brought back. She really feels that Coach Ben judges them for everything that they've done, and of course he would want to ruin that, because he doesn't see them as good people anymore. Eventually, they end the trial and are trying to reach a verdict, but they can't reach a 2/3 majority vote. Shauna gets sick of it all, and she lashes out and convinces enough of the Yellow Jackets to change their vote. Here she is, seen and heard, and there's most certainly a power in that, which she has never felt before. Now that they've got their verdict, Shauna is ready to just kill Coach Ben. She doesn't really care about how, and offers up death by fire since she feels it would be a fitting death. Understandably, the others see this more as torture, and Natalie offers up the idea of a firing squad, to which Shauna suggests Nat be the one to do the deed, which I truly believe is more out of spite than anything, and it's pretty obvious that that's the case. But they decide to do a draw for it, as that would be the only fair way to decide. Later on, Shauna is sharpening her knife and Melissa enters the scene. Shauna is curious, as was I, on why Melissa even likes her. Melissa begins to explain that she saw how poorly Shauna let people treat her all the time, and she likes the new side of Shauna that embraces the dark aspects of herself. And by the end of the episode, Shauna convinces Melissa to cut Coach's Achilles tendon, and it's clear that Shauna revels in it, and even Nat notices.
You won't be going anywhere.
You don't have to enjoy it this much.
Moving on, now that Coach must be kept alive, and it's being done in a pretty inhumane way, Nat takes it into her own hands to let him die, to which the group is pissed at, because they believed that he was their way back. From what it seems, Shauna is ready to put Natalie to the firing squad next, but Lottie butts in and declares Shauna as the new leader. And once again, Shauna sounds pretty reasonable and level-headed when she has to rally the group together, but her vindictive side comes out when she tells Nat that she is the one who is going to carve up Coach Ben. After being appointed leader, Shauna does seem to be doing a little bit better. But I think she just likes having the recognition and the power, which is honestly pretty similar to her relationship with Melissa too. After the researchers find them and Lottie takes one of them out, Shauna really seems to revel in it. Not scared or anything, but almost enjoying the scene that just played out in front of them. It's a pretty small moment, but very telling nonetheless. Even when Cody shoots Melissa with an arrow, Shauna doesn't stop to be with her, even though Melissa asks her not to leave. But she does threaten Mari to make sure she stays alive, so I guess that counts for something. She was more than ready to go out on a hunt and take out anybody that could possibly be against them. Fast forward to episode 8, and Shauna has a dream where she's working at a grocery store, and Dream Jackie tells her that she has so much wasted potential, which we, as the audience, knows is true, because once again, Shauna never let herself leave the shadows of the people she was around, namely Jackie. In the same scene, Shauna burst out saying she hates when Jackie calls her shipment, to which Jackie responds, "Since when?" Which is just another example of how Shauna never expressed any of her dislikes and just sat back in silence, having things fester in her mind. Then we see moths, which are usually a symbol for death, and they are absolutely overwhelming until adult Shauna wakes up from the dream. Not long after this, though, it seems like adult Shauna has the intent to kill Hannah's daughter. Teen Shauna has another vision of a moth when she's talking to Melissa, and not long after, she makes the decision that they should stay in the wilderness. I'm assuming the moth has some correlation to Shauna's more dark tendencies. Backing up a little bit, though, to the Yellow Jackets getting ready for rescue. When Natalie starts taking control to get everybody prepared, Shauna is quick to tell her that she's not in charge anymore. But Nat doesn't really care because it's rescue. You can see it on her face that she's pissed when Nat takes over and tells everyone to get ready. She just got her power, and now she is about to lose it all, just like that. Shauna is back in her hut packing up all of her stuff to leave, but Melissa is clearly not happy with her, so Shauna questions it. And I felt like I was being manipulated when Shauna was trying to convince Melissa that she had her best interest in mind, and when Shauna said,
Stop being a bitch.
that was absolutely crazy to me. Like, that triggered my fight or flight response. Everyone is pretty much ready to go now, and Lottie decides to tell everyone that she is not going anywhere because she feels that she truly found herself out in the wilderness. She feels she has no home to go back to because she will not be able to live as herself back in New Jersey. I think Shauna took a lot from Lottie's speech about not being herself, and she decided to stay too. I really think she's lying when she says she doesn't know why she wants to stay, but you can't really tell people, hey, I found this power and control out here, and I'm not gonna give that up. But when you tell everyone to stay and have a gun, well, people tend to listen. But it was also like 15 on 1, so I'm sure they could have taken her. And Natalie gave up that gun a little bit too easily. Sure, she was caught off guard, but she might as well have handed it to her at that point. Hannah and Cody get thrown into the animal pen, which is the better outcome because Shauna was actually just about to straight up shoot Cody and is probably still considering it. At this point, Shauna is more of the dictator of the Yellow Jackets, and there's clearly a lot of disdain for her rise to power, mainly because it went from a chosen place to being a forced one. She clearly doesn't have the best interest of everyone in mind, especially since she took the chance of rescue away from them. It's more about power and control for her. She used to feel invisible, and now she's making sure her will is seen and heard no matter what the cost. Speaking of control, let's go ahead and talk about Melissa again. After Shauna sees Melissa and Hannah laughing together, she gets furious. I think it's because, in a way, she is losing control over Melissa in some sense. She also treats Melissa like crap in general, which is clear for the audience to see. Probably similar to how she felt other people treated her. Not necessarily how other people actually treated her, but how she felt. No one gave a shit about you until me, is a very telling line. It's also possible that the way she treats Melissa is similar to the way she felt when she was with Jackie. Not that Jackie treated her as badly, but maybe that's how she generally felt in their friendship. When Melissa leaves the tent, she has truly lost that control over her, and she shoots at her to exert the power she is willing to use and show not to cross her. I'm sure when the others suggest a hunt, Shauna is aware that they're hoping she'll get chosen or something along the lines. When everybody's drawing cards, Shauna can sense that there has been some kind of rigging going on. So she decides to change the outcome herself, and when Mari picks the card, she is just elated. When they begin the countdown and Mari starts to run, the joy on her face is honestly scary, and these are Shauna's true colors now being shown. Most of the Yellow Jackets are not all in for the hunt, and even Travis tries to stop her by playing into her fragile ego. But aside from threatening to kill him, she leaves at Lottie's suggestion. And there is no one else on the Yellow Jackets team that is reveling in this hunt more. Other Yellow Jackets are trying to give Mari a fighting chance, but Shauna only has one goal on her mind. Melissa ends up finding Shauna and she tries to kill her, but she can't do it, to which Shauna says,
I knew you'd turn out to be boring.
which is insane to me, for lack of a better word. Even when she finds Mari in the pit, there is no sorrow or sadness, just a cold demeanor that is glad with the outcome. When she finds Van, who is absolutely heartbroken at finding Mari, she holds no sympathy and just asks what's taking them so long because they have a feast to prepare. Then we see our Antler Queen being crowned, with adult Shauna narrating in the background, talking about how she had the time of her life out there, and the power she felt being queen is something that she wants back.